Hello, this is Moody Alshehaby and this is our 8th video of our Adobe After Effect course from scratch. In our previous video, we've talked about the mask concept. What is it? How to create a mask, how to control it, how to manage it, and how to animate it. We've also had 2 exercises where we removed a static object from a video, as well as a moving object using the mask concept and the content aware fill panel. Today in our video, we'll talk in details about the 3D camera options, camera type and presets, lenses, animation and keyframes, 3D camera tracking, and null objects. First part on this video starts on the time shown on the screen now, and it will be about the camera presets, camera type and camera lenses, with a diagram to explain the difference between each lens. Second part in this video starts on the time shown on the screen now, and it will be about the camera view options with the camera animation. The third part of this video starts on the time shown on the screen now, and it will be about the camera controllers. Fourth part of this video starts on the time shown on the screen now, and it will be about the camera options and depth of field, with an exercise on how to create a fake depth in your work. The last part of this video starts on the time shown on the screen now, and it will be about the null objects. A lot is going on today with the 3D camera tracking, lenses, animation and keyframes, also with the null objects, so let's start. I will start here with the camera type and lenses options. Go ahead and open a new camera layer. Go to layer, then new, then camera, or shortcut Ctrl-Alt-Shift-C. Or from inside your timeline, just right click, then new, then camera. Then you will get this camera setting window, and I'm gonna stop here for a few minutes. The most confusing thing for any beginner who starts using a digital or professional camera is the lens. What kind of lens I should use for my shot? There are multiple lenses and variety of angles that might confuse you, but I will make it very simple for you in the next few minutes. The closer the object you want to shoot is to you, is the wider lens you need. Like if you're gonna shoot a group of people and that group is close to you, you're more likely need a wide lens to capture the whole group in the picture, right? The farther the object to you, the more focused and narrower angle lens that you need. Think of it this way. Smaller value on your camera lens like 15mm gives you a bigger wide angle, and as you see there is a contradiction here between the two elements. Small value such as 14 or 15mm gives you a very wide angle. The higher the value on your camera lens such as 600 or 500mm, the narrower angle you get. So to make it easy for you to remember, always think of it as a discrepancy. Wide angle means a small lens value. Narrow angle means a high lens value. In After Effects, the Gara preset starts from 15mm and up to 200mm. If you chose 15mm, you see the value here is low. Only 15mm. However, the wide angle will be big. Look at this number here. Angle of view is 100.39 degrees. That's pretty big. If we went higher with the lens now, this value will drop down. Let's try the 20mm lens. Now the wide angle is down to 83.97 degrees. If you got the 200mm lens, the wide angle will be narrower and narrower. Now it's only down to 10.29. But that doesn't mean that the shot will be blurry or bad, no. It's actually pretty focused. You use those narrow lenses for long distance shots, like birds, wildlife, sports, objects that you can't be close by to shoot them, and you need a focused long distance lens. Let's take a minute and look together at this diagram. I would say start from 14mm lens and up to 35mm. You will get a pretty good wide angle. You use them for a group of people which you need a wide angle to capture all of them in your shot. could be for landscape too, as well as architecture interiors. You see how wide the angle is here? Starting from 50mm lens and up to 85 or 100mm, I often use them for average circumstances shooting, like portraits, children's, products and items with reasonable distance to you. 135mm lens and up to 200, 300, 400, 500 or 600mm lenses are for long distance shots, for birds, wildlife, sports, objects that are far from you and you still want to get a good focus on them. And depends on how far your object is from you, the higher value you will need, as you will need a narrower lens focus to get your shot. The next thing you need to focus here in this window is the camera type. You have one node camera and two node camera. What's the difference? The only difference here is the way the camera orients. The one node camera orients around itself. However, the two node camera orients around an object or a point of interest. So pretty much it depends on your work. If you want a camera to revolve 360 around itself, go with the one node. If you want to highlight something in your work, then you have to go with the two node camera. Most likely I go with the two node camera. Then select your desired lens. I usually go with the 50mm. It's something in between, gives me a good result and a good depth. You can rename your camera too if you want to. Here you got your units. Most of the cameras, if not all of them, use the millimeters. Then from the measure film size, I will also leave it horizontally, then click OK. Now once you get your camera, it comes automatically on one view and active camera. From the view drop menu, you can change your preview option from one view to two views horizontally. It divides the preview area on your screen into two sections. Each section is separate and you can control it separately. You can zoom in and out or move it right or left. The other side is the same. If you selected your layer, and of course it has to be a 3D layer, you can see your X, Y and Z handles. And if you moved any option, it reflects on the right side. Also, the name of the camera appears in the top left section. If we change it to two views vertical, same thing except the two sections are verticals now. Now we've got four views, four sections. We'll have the active camera, which is very much the front view. Also, you've got top, back, and right options. Now we have four views left. Choose this if you want to center the active camera in your preview panel. Then the rest of the cameras will show on the left side. Same as for views right, it will just switch the cameras to the right side, as well as for views top or bottom. I will keep it on one view for now. Now from the active camera drop menu, it's automatically on active camera. You have camera 1, which is your active camera now, also the front view. If you only have one camera in your project and you haven't used it yet or moved it anywhere, all three options will give you the same result, which is the front view of your picture. Now if you chose left and you selected your camera, you will see the camera on your right. Don't get confused. I know it says left view and you see it on your right. Well, it is to the left side of the image itself, not to you. It will appear on the opposite direction for you. Next one is top, and it looks from the bottom because like I said, it's based on the object preview and not yours. And from the back, pretty much looks like the front. Then from the right, which will be your left, from the bottom, which it will look like it's from the top, each one of them is the opposite to you except the front and back views. You've got 3 extra custom views which you can control manually as you want. Custom View 1. You can just get the camera orbit tool and rotate it and move it to control the layer however you want. As well as Custom View 2 and 3. They give you those custom views to be able to rotate and move your camera freely with whatever angle you want. So that was the 2 drop menus that you use to control the camera views in your preview panel. Now if you want to animate the camera, if you notice here you have the point of interest option. And that's because we chose 2-node camera from our preset panel. You can double click on your camera layer to open your preset window. See here the type of camera is set on 2-node camera. If you change it to 1-node camera, the option point of interest will be gone. I don't want this point of interest now, so I will just leave it at 1-node camera. I will place my timeline indicator at the start and make a keyframe here. Also another keyframe at the Z rotation option. I will set it here on 0. Move my timeline indicator about 8 seconds further and change your Z option from here. Right click on your position. Select separate dimensions. Then I will use the Z position to zoom in my picture. Now from the Z position option, I will rotate my picture a little bit and create a keyframe on this position. I want to center the cat's face in the middle. It's like we are zooming on her face. I will take the Y position down a little bit. I will move the X position more towards the center of the comb. Notice that every move we make here, it creates a keyframe for us. I will select all my keyframes, press on F9 to easy ease them. Now just hit the spacebar to see this animation. It looks pretty neat, isn't it? Cinematic look zooming on that cute face. Now to our camera controllers. Here in the menu bar, long click on the camera option to open the full menu. Or shortcut C. First option here is the Unified Camera tool. With this option and left click and hold on your mouse, you can rotate and move your camera like X and Y. And with the right click on your mouse, you can change the option to the Z option, and you can zoom in and out with it. The other 3 options are pretty much doing what the first option does. With the Orbit Camera tool, you can rotate and move your camera like X and Y option. Just hold your left click on your mouse and move it. Then the XY camera tool, just to move it X and Y options, vertical and horizontal. Last option here is the Track Z camera tool, and you use it to zoom. Most of my work I only use the Orbit Camera tool. Now to our depth of field option. How to create a fake depth with your camera options. I've got two characters here, each one is on a separate layer. First thing to do, convert them to a 3D layer. I will change my view option to two views horizontal, then create a new camera, press on Ctrl Shift Alt C. Change the name if you want so. 50mm lens is okay for me. See this part in here, enable depth of field, make sure it's checked, then hit OK. Now select one of your layers, and since it's a 3D layer, you can see the X, Y, and Z options here. I will hold the Z option and move it forward towards the camera. Then from the X option, move it to the left a little bit. Then select the boy's layer, and from the Z option, move him back a little bit. They look like they are on the same dimension, only the girl is scaled up a little bit more than the boy. But they are actually far from each other. They have some kind of a 3D dimension between them. To start your depth, open the drop menu from your camera options. You see that the depth of field is on. In case that was off, you can just toggle it on and off from here. Or also double click on your camera layer and enable it from here. From this drop menu, we will only need the focus distance and the aperture options. I want to focus now on the gear, which is the front layer here close to the camera. With the focus distance parameter, I will take it back till I place it on the gear's layer. It's like I'm telling the camera, this is your focused object. The other object should be out of focus. Now from the aperture parameter, start increasing the value to set the other object out of focus. You notice the more I increase the aperture value, the other object is getting blurred, and the focus now is only on the gear. Now if you want to switch the focus distance and switch between the two objects, go again to the focus distance parameter and increase it till you place it to the second object that you want to place the focus on. But first, click on the stopwatch to create a keyframe at this position as you focused already on the gear. Then a couple seconds further, place your timeline indicator, and now you can go ahead and increase the value till you place it on the boy's layer. And you will get another keyframe here. I will leave the aperture value the same. Now you notice that the camera is focused on the boy and not in the gear. The gear looks blurry now. The gear now is out of focus. Easy ease my keyframes, select them and press on F9. Play the video. You will see the focus changes between the gear and the boy within your keyframes. I will go back to view 1 to see it better. And that's how you create a fake depth in your video and your work. It's a pretty useful technique and it gives your work some kind of 3D look. Now to the null object. What's the null object and how to use it? What's the importance of it? You can find this in Layer, New, then Null Object, or shortcut Ctrl-Alt-Shift-Y. You will get the null object layer here and in the composition too. Null object is an empty layer. Actually, it's not even a layer. It won't show or seen in your render. Once you play your video, it will be invisible. But it's very important as you can pair on this layer with as many layers as you want. And from the null object, you can control all those layers. And at the same time, it has all the parameters that you have in any regular layer. From the transform drop menu, you can see that. Now why should I use this null object to parent it with another layer? I could just simply use the layer itself. I've got the answer for you. With the null object, you can parent it with as many layers as you want, not just a single layer. Also, you can create as many null objects as you want, and parent all of them together and control all of them with just a single layer. It sounds confusing, right? Let's see this in action to make it sound more reasonable. Let me first delete this null layer. Just hit delete from your keyboard. In this composition here, I've got about 25 layers beside my background. Let's say now I want to scale those layers up or down, or even start an animation. Someone would say, okay, just select all your layers and scale them. Okay, let's try this and we'll see how it works. Now I have selected all my layers in my comp except of my background. Press S to bring up the scale option. I'm gonna scale it down. Seems like each layer got its own scale based on the anchor point of this layer. It doesn't look the same here. The camera is very far from the first option. It looks messy. Unless if you want to do it manually, one layer at a time, and reposition each one of them again. A lot of hustle and it would take a long time. And here comes the importance of the null object. I will go back with the Ctrl Z. See, now all my layers are neat and well organized. Now let's try the null object. Go to Layer, New, then Null Object. You can right click and rename it if you want to. I will rename it Scale. Press Y to get the anchor point tool and center the anchor point in the middle. And to control your null object, you can hold it from the side or the corners. You have to hold it from the anchor point itself, then you can move it. Let's say I will place it here. I'm gonna select all my layers. If you can't see parent and link option in here, just toggle your switches mode. And if you still can't see them for some reason, just right click on here, go to columns, then you can find it there. Now all you gotta do is just click on the parent pick whip and hold and drag it to your null layer to parent them together. Select your null layer, press S from the keyboard to bring up the scale option. And now you can scale it up or down as a single layer. However, you are controlling all the 25 layers. As you see, all my layers are scaling the same way. Unlike before, each layer got its own scale. And that could be a very useful technique for you if you're working with multiple layers, multiple animations, and you need to control all your layers without touching your layer itself. This way you will keep your layers characteristics. If I want to animate this a simple animation, bring it from the outside of my composition to the inside using the position option. Press P to bring up the position option. Make a keyframe on this position. Then take it a second further. And with your timeline indicator at the beginning still, take the null object out of the scene. Press F9 to ease your keyframes, and from the graph editor, smooth it more at the end. You can add up to your animation. With the null object layer, a single layer, we have controlled all 25 layers, and we finished animation just in a single layer. We didn't have to pre-compose our layers, we just kept them the way they are. That was a way of using the null object. Let's try another way to show how important it is. Can I create more than one null object? Yes, you can create as many null objects as you want. Now we've got one null object, and all of my 25 layers in my compositions are parent with it. Let me create another one. Right click and rename it rotate, as I'm gonna use it for rotation. I want to rotate my project about 30 degrees from the bottom right corner here. And to do so, you have to add an anchor point at this bottom right corner here. If I added the first null object layer at the bottom right corner, it will mess up my position and my scale animation, right? So I will take my second null object and place the anchor point at the bottom right corner here. Let's enlarge it a little bit so I can actually see it. Now we are gonna rotate our project at this point. Now since we have two null objects, there is something that you need to consider. All my 25 layers in my composition are already parent with the first null object, which is the scale layer. So all you have to do now is to parent the scale layer with the rotate layer. Select the first null object, which is the scale layer. Click and hold and drag the parent pick whip and place it on the rotate layer. Now all my layers are parent to the first null object, and the first null object is parent itself to the second null object. This way I'm gonna control everything from the second null object. I'm gonna place my timeline indicator at the last keyframe. Select your rotate layer, the second null object. Press R to bring up the rotation option and make a keyframe on 0% here. After a frame or two further, I will start rotating my object. See here where everything is rotating. Then a frame or two further, then make your last keyframe on a 0% again. F9 to easy ease them. Now see your animation. It's not the nicest and coolest animation, however it's just a demo for using those null objects. Now with this last exercise, you see that you can add an extra anchor point at any point inside your timeline, and control the whole project at any time from any point just by adding a new null object. I hope that was helpful. That was our video. We've went through a bunch of things today: camera option, 3D cameras, camera views, created a depth of field, camera animation, as well as null object, how to use it and what's the importance of it. We've been talking for a while now about animation and keyframes, videos and cameras, 3Ds, and it's about time to talk about how to export and render your work to get your final videos. In our next video, we'll talk in details about how to export your work, how to get your final video and animation, the best option for rendering your video, also how to get a transparent video so that you can use it on top of another video, like a logo or a lower third. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.